Welcome to nothing else than, well, the Mountain Dew League. We are about to see Team Vitality fight Force over here on Overpass. A quick loss came their way, and we might just see a second one, or maybe, the clearance of the French site. On my site as well is nobody else than Michael Cassidy, and we are about to see CIS fight France. A very simple best of one, which could result into very intense moments.
Yeah, I'm actually very excited to see Overpass. I mean, Forze are a team that play it pretty frequently. Vitality as well. They're both pretty successful on the map from what I'm aware of. So the fact this has gone through the vetoes isn't anything too much of a surprise.
Right.
But Vitality are a team that have really hit this kind of wall, it feels like. They seem to have struggled over the past few months, and although they are still sort of competing and trying to fight into that upper echelon of Counter-Strike,
right,
Forze are really on the up and up. They've been performing pretty consistently and doing pretty well.
I mean, we could call this a little bit debatable to many extents. What they have recently at least achieved was the win during the what it was in Belgium. The Charleroi. Charleroi, or Charleroi, as probably the people who speak French would like to say. Winning also the week 3 of ECS against Optic is a clear indicator, though we can discuss Optic's state at the moment, and if that is a real success, or if it's just a bit of a obvious victory coming in from Vitality. But we're talking about the number 11, right? And still, online Counter-Strike is differently, and when we're talking about Force, who are on the 21st rank of this world, we can... We'll call it a very interesting one, because especially right now in this time of Counter-Strike, between the top 10, like the range for me from top 10 to 25, 10 to 25 is like where everybody's able to beat everyone from time to time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to map pick, and you're right, just who's more available or who's more prepared to play on any given day. I mean,
right.
even in the upper side of things, from the 10th till 1st, outside of maybe the realms of Astralis, because for some reason that seems, that's a completely different beast. It's I think everything is exchangeable in that same regard. You still have that sort of 2 or 3 teams that should win most of their games. You look at like Liquid and Navi as well,
right?
But it's still there's extreme upset potential in so many of these different teams, and I think it's really a testament to the depth that CS has.
Yeah, I think we don't really need to discuss who we especially want to watch here. In 2019, a man has performed in the last 3 months with nothing else than a 1.3 rating over the course of 75 maps. That is Saiwu. The good thing about him, which I enjoy so much, is that he himself does not lack this performance on lands. At the major, he was underperforming to some degree, but in Charleroi, for example, he was outperforming pretty much everyone. Online, he continuously comes up with ratings above 1.25, which is amazing. And so, if you want to watch out for a guy, if you thought like somebody can single-handedly carry somebody, of course, it's a Zaiwu show. But Force, when we quickly just mention them and talk about individuals on their side, I wouldn't be too worried that we, for example, see somebody like Power striking massively and becoming not necessarily the dark horse, but the hero of this entire CS squad.
Yeah, him and Facecrack have really impressed over time. I mean, the amount of rounds where you'll see Power just go off with the AWP is incredible.
Right.
I mean, he's able to sort of use his... I mean, in the same vein that a lot of AWP players are able to sort of use their movements to their advantage, he does it in sort of this... He's got a really good idea of how to play in both a passive and aggressive setup, and he's not, as far as I'm aware, too undisciplined, I think is the best way to say it. I mean, there's so many aspiring or up-and-coming teams that do have that sort of rogue gun or this huge amount of firepower in one player, but discipline is a huge issue, whereby they get a kill, they get 2 kills, and suddenly they want to go on for the entire ace. But sometimes that can lose you rounds, and as far as I've been able to see, that isn't something that I've noticed too often on the side of Exapower.
I personally think if there's anything every team needs in the world, that is a Hunden. Listen, I'm a big fan of this man, right? So I can't say I'm unbiased with this, but if there's one thing every big team in this world needs, it's a Hunden. Period. But Let's be real. It's just maybe a little bit of my fanboy and good attitude of this guy coming in. So Vitality versus Force, of course, is a different one. We're about to hop into the game to at least see a bit of decent warm-up. As warm-up is always something... I mean, listen, the craziest things happen in warm-up, and it's not always explainable, but I enjoy it a lot. And it seems like instantaneously as I say it.
You've got really good timing.
You know, we Germans are punctual from time to time, mostly. Except the Berlin airport, but that's a different story. We directly hop into Team Vitality versus Forze in the 9th round, and I hope in the year 2020, Michael, we're gonna have a change that it's not 9th rounds anymore. I hope it's like HE rounds or something like that.
You want dodgeball to decide
Yes.
how the rounds go.
Yes, but actually not dodgeball. Imagine, for example, you had the first round. Okay, listen, hear me out. the first round, the 9th deciding round, features everybody having an unlimited amount of grenades, but the grenades, they only bounce on impact. Like, they only explode on impact, pardon.
Oh, right, I see.
So you can do, like, mortar fire. So everybody sets up and prepares?
That sounds terrifying.
That sounds very good, though. Well, from going to mortar fire, let's rather hop into nothing else and Team Vitality versus Force, as we are seeing the CIS side on over there aggressing instantly over on B. Facecrack is dying, and that didn't seem like the most sophisticated move. As they're taking the control, though, B is vulnerable and about to be taken by the Russians.
Well, there's short control here for Vitality. They've got 2 or 3 players in that position, but they're losing out in the duels. MBK is able to eventually take down exit power, but they're trying to escape towards the A bomb site. They realize the Zai is trying to track them down. He's dealt with the first 2 players, but the bomb already navigating towards the other bomb site. But he doesn't really know if this is a full commitment. I mean, Almazer has to realize that Zaiwu is privy to this, and they're actually going to mind game each other.
Oh, no. And the point in time where you realize your system is collapsing to Zaiwu, you got to worry, but it's enough. Malzer takes him down. That's going to be the pistol shot directly going into the face of the Frenchman. And so, Vitality, they themselves have to accept that lead is nothing they can live with in the moment. Force are going to be the one to buy up as much as possible. MP5 SD is... I still don't like that call.
The overwhelming amount of SMGs on this map is not always the best call.
No, I would always say submachine guns are a very good call in the second one.
I was a bit surprised that Forze were able to get as much success from that previous round as they did, considering, like you said, it wasn't the most sophisticated or it didn't even really seem like the most sort of in line with timings push.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the matter of fact that Facecrack pushed through Monster all on his own, like legit all on his own, was where I thought
the rest of his team were still outside of Monster as well, so...
They were like, dude, we're not there yet. We just he was like really missing the timing out on that one. But at least a few shots coming from Alex, the ex-LDLC player, trying to take down another one with Jerry. Able to gain 2 kills. Very helpful in that sense that, of course, Force losing 2, gotta reinvest for the 2. It's not the majority of them dying, but at this point, Michael, it starts to matter, because the big guns are coming out for Vitality. The AUK is in the hands of Alex, Zaiwu could do the same. And now you could start to worry.
And this one of the issues that Vitality might face in this round is the lack of armor and head armor on some of these players. You've got still Mac 10s on the field, and those can be absolutely devastating if in the right hands. And it's just going to be a fast play into B.
And there's a fast play on B is going to be Apex in combination with RPK holding that really down. But there's a wall of smokes. It's making Force a little afraid and intimidated about what's happening next, but the shots are coming down. That's the first one eliminated. Apex got to say bye-bye, but RPK is too present, known, and too strong as well. It's the third he's getting, and Jerry is going to be another one on the board to be taken down, and RPK is hungry, but good enough as well. 4 frags well deserved by the tank himself, as the big shells he's shooting in the direction of the Russians, they're working, and this gives him the 5-2 kill death difference. Well done, and a strong approach, whilst the Russians were looking somewhat uncoordinated.
Yeah, that chaos is all really thrown into perspective as soon as that smoke is deployed towards the barrels. RBK making sure that there's a bit of separation between him and the T-side players. They had to navigate through a number of different plays, but we see this boost so many times, and Forze have actually been able to get success out of it.
French veteran NBK taken out by that. Unfortunately, we missed it as Auto Director started to do prank channels and we're the first victim. But with such an entry, right, and the weaponry looking quite average on Force, surely we're talking about 2 CZs, but there are more than enough close range possibilities. Take out the pocket AK, spray 12 bullets down into the chest or head of one opponent. But suddenly it is just 1 more minute. And suddenly ZywOo's having the realization, nobody's coming over long, I'd rather support A, and this is where it becomes problematic. Hits the first, face crack down, and so the utility usage needs to be perfect on ZywOo because he's only down to 18 and his teammate is falling as well.
Oh, he's gone down to the flames, ZywOo. It's spread just at the last second. He wasn't expecting it. Amaze was able to take down Alex on the rotation. It's suddenly the player that needed to pull things through in the previous round that has to go and save. It's RPK retreating towards the B bomb site, but didn't get to see it from ZywOo's perspective, but that's just not how you want to be losing that A site.
How unfortunate it was, because Vitality, as you said, it was pretty much piece by piece they were collapsing. And as ZywOo was dying to the flames, all the hopes of Vitality went down in the fire with him. So Force can take the third over here on the T side. A little thing to point out, because it's a thing I love so much about HLTV, the best website in the world, is you can make a little bit of a debrief, or more likely a briefing, pardon. Debrief happens afterwards. Because when we talk about Force, 10 times played in the last 3 months, won 6 out of 4, pardon, 6 out of 10. So if you're quite good at maths, you know that's a win rate of 60%. Beating teams like ENCE, Csgo, or Movistar Riders, whilst Vitality is a little bit more there with profound knowledge. Won 8 out of 11 maps they have played on Overpass, beating BP, Big, House Sports. So I would say also quite decent names. And you mentioned in the beginning quite well, Michael, this could be a clash, not yet of titans, but of quite strong units.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly a lot of upset potential there, I think. Although it's not really reflected in it's kind of the odds and what people are predicting on the HLTV, respectively. I think there is certainly a possibility that we'll see Vitality concede a game like this. So long as Forze keep up in this manner and really keep applying pressure, picking them apart, and maybe even utilizing that boost further, because I'm almost surprised that teams are getting caught out by the likes of Forze, considering they do that kind of a play fairly consistently, at least once a map. There's a lot of these small little tricks that Forze like to use to get those opening duels, and so if that continues to be a factor, I can imagine a world in which Vitality concede this game. Being so meticulous as well in these anti-ecos.
I'm very amazed by the kind of worlds you build up around yourself. RPK about to fall down. Force picks up another one. Just to put the viewer a bit more in a better picture, if you're just joining the MDL, this is the promotional season. This is where you can join the ESL Pro League. So basically the ladder to it, and I think the standards of Vitality as well as Force are, we want to get in there. And funny-wise, it is Vitality who so far lost 1 and won 1 against funny-wise ENCE. They picked up a 16-13 victory. And the lads of Force, well, beaten Virtus Pro earlier on. It's their second match of the season, and it could be another victory they're getting. But first of all, they're losing Almazar. Jerry strikes back, and RPK prevails in combination with Alex. That's nearly a shutdown for Force.
Good CT side aggression and management there from Team Vitality. I mean, crunching in towards short, and Force had 2 players present in that location. And even just the initiative to solo push out a monster as well, to keep pushing that advantage forward. Force getting caught off guard by how forward Vitality were going to be playing. Now it's just Flynn exit power. AWP in the hands of the man you'd expect it to be. They're going to have to really group themselves up for this one. They've still got a minute left, so there's at least some time to navigate the map and work these picks. But Vitality are going to have 2 players respective to each bomb site.
And this is the question, right? Where Flit's going to weigh it out. No, most likely not. He's present and put on the pedestal. Makes it quite uncomfortable for the Force side, but here comes a rotation over. And they might just buy it. They might just buy it. It is only Alex being nearby. The next problem, though, is that RPK still is on Overwatch. But do they dare? I'm not quite sure, Michael. They seem to be as insecure as we are about that. And obviously, dislined. Denied.
They're just not even going to commit to it anymore. I think they really wanted to go towards that B site, but the timely smoke on towards short just made things incredibly awkward as they escaped connector. It was going to be a rotation back towards that site, but because of that single piece of utility, they just didn't feel comfortable pushing past the smoke. And we could see on the other side of things that Alex, as soon as they actually emerged from the connector, he heard everything. He knew exactly where they were at all times, and if they did commit through, I'd imagine that was around that Alex was going to be able to shut down regardless. There'll still be a full buy on the table, though, for Forze in response.
Right.
They have the AWP back and AKs across the field. Team Vitality not going to go for an aggro setup again. It's going to be more of a passive style play, but still presence in towards connectors. So that's likely where first contact will be in this map.
Yeah, and Flit most definitely heard that, but his head splattered on the spools behind him. That's going to be the lead. And it has... Oh no! Exipar kills his own teammate! He was looking to get Zaiwu and suddenly Force only down to 3 players due to a bit of friendly fire. Unlucky for the Russian side, because otherwise they would have had the man advantage, but they're going to be picked apart. Still alive with 3 soldiers, but they remain rather in the toilets, and that's going to be one explosive take, and I'm not so sure if they're going to expect Apex in combination with NBK to knock on the back door soon.
Oh, Jerry's going back to check it. But the time doesn't work. He actually only holds connector. Oh no, Apex, he gets the first, but the trade's instantly available for Almazer. Bomb recovered, but they need to go quickly now. The bomb spotted out. No, MBK from the backlines is able to eliminate exit powers. They consider a retreat. Almazer's in the 1 versus 3, and he at least has an isolated duel here. There's the first. He has a lot more space to work with now.
100% right, a lot more space. The op could be the tool he's need, and he could just see the player back through the hut of the truck, but seems like that was not the case. Vitality prevails. Still, they have the problem of rebuying with 60% of their team base, which basically means reinvesting over and over again is fairly costly after a time. They can't really amass too much money, and that is making it somewhat problematic in the end. The window of opportunity for Force might just close in, because if Vitality get that momentum over on the CT side, it could be fairly dominant. It's just what Force is about to give us, because that once more looks like nothing else than brute force over there on B.
Well, they've tried to muster together a buy in this round, just the Deagle and Face Crack's hands, but they're just going to contact out. Vitality unsuspecting. The counter utility is at least available. Apex taking down Face Crack initially. That smoke again towards barrels is so problematic for the Force side. You can see they're stagnating. They don't really know how to respond. They have to swing out so wide to take that fight against RPK, and he wins the respective duel regardless. Forza gonna be retreating now in exit power, but he's left his teammate high and dry. That's the bomb out towards Monster, and she's more concerned about the flank. He's going to try and bring this up into the next round, I imagine.
It is probably the best and most reasonable thing to do. I think otherwise, Exit Power, you can just count down until those Vitality guys might be going for a hunt, but obviously that's not going to be the case, because they're also trying to amass some money. They're also trying to get a few bucks left in their bank account, because you want that. You want to start to have a growing economy for your lads. But Apex is going to go in first, hungry for the frack. He knows where Exit Power is, at least by now. He's trying to bait out that AWP as soon as possible. NBK is coming in as well. And I think at that point in time, it might be all done, but it seems like he pulled off the Houdini, but not with Apex, pulling the rabbit out of the head. Ties there. The money starts rising, as Force needs to take a break.
Yeah, seemingly a bit of a momentum shift. You're absolutely right, and that Vitality have seemingly found a way to take the fight towards Forza. I mean, they went for more passive style approaches in those first 4 rounds, and now suddenly they're making sure that they have some information early into these rounds. And I think that's exactly the type of play that we expect to see on Overpass, just because you have these long rotations. You need to take a bit of initiative as to which side is going to be the more dominant
Right.
presence from the T side. I think there's a lot of sort of debate as to how you should be playing out a map like Overpass. You do need to always be dynamic. I don't think that anybody will ever deny that. But throwing in these small connector pushes or pushes towards long or taking initial duels in towards middle can be extremely effective. And it's a map that I love watching because of that fact.
I think what you're saying is very good, especially because the 4 rounds we saw Force struggling were the rounds where he seemed fairly static in their approaches. Always the same towards toilets, always the same towards monsters, always countered with one smoke by RPK, I think it was, that really gave them a little bit of a limited field of view. A man who has no field of view anymore, that is NBK, down and dead. So Force, you should always watch out when pistols and CIS teams combined are there to take you down and hunt you. 1 minute left, and I mean, they come out of this round as a victor anyway.
Yeah, Apex should be able to just have a field day here. I mean, they're slowly going to present one opportunity by the next, so it's actually interesting to see how Forza react. I mean, you're correct in saying that things have been fairly static so far. Playing in a pretty one-dimensional game when they've gone for a faster play, it has been pretty lackluster over on that B-bomb site. And now that they're attempting a few, or meeting a bit of resistance now from the Vitality lineup, is it going to be a bit more procedural? Is there going to be a set play that gets them initial short control over at B, or will they throw the sort of Guardian and toilet smokes that we're used to seeing when they're taking A-side control as well? Okay. I think
time is running out. Yeah,
he wanted to just die.
Sounds harsh, but yes, he wanted to die. At least Almazar is going to stick to Alex Stick, and so Vitality now take the lead. Money is starting to grow. The very pivotal part of a CT economy, or more likely it's the entire fundament of the CT side, as we know, getting the money rocking or getting the money rolling over there when you're defending is a quite tough task. So let's see if Force are going to vanish. They at least have a bit of utility now, a good bit of utility to now make it work, and let's see if they're going to be static once more, if variation is going to be put into the game, because that's not an ideal start for Vitality.
Yeah, it's only really the one player that takes those duels as well. I mean, there were 2 players in towards middle for Forza, but Exapower just wins both fights. And now, because of those initial duels, I mean, Forza are going to go back to what we were used to seeing from them. This sort of static play and waiting for some sort of a counter aggression over from that CT side so they can stack one of these bomb sites or get a player into a flanking position. They don't want to get caught out by anybody making their way somehow through long monster, or even making it their way in towards the connector, because if they're then setting up for an execute, that backstab potential is a way back into the round for Vitality. So it's going to be the slow approach, the nades over towards the B-bomb side, and Vitality, there's minimal amounts of pressure or presence really here. They've actually rotated 2 players in, so it's a decent...
Did they hear it?
A decent chance that they might be able to hold this one down.
There is a decent chance. Alex somewhat ready with RPK, but if it's going to work out, might get a little tough as the tank has fallen. Alex is holding it down to some degree. Apex is coming in from behind, taking out Flit. But with 5 HP, you are somewhat chanceless. And when you are somewhat chanceless and you're on the CT side, rather sticking to what you have might be the ideal and superb game plan. That's what he's doing. And Force, with the entry, right? You saw Vitality get a little bit more aggressive towards middle, a bit more cocky. Instantly punished for that. And once they try to do this with Birthday, you see what the consequences are. And as you see what those consequences are, I cannot imagine that this is going to be repeated by them. And so as a fan of Vitality, you can hope that they learn from that specific mistake.
They go for a very traditional setup as well. 3 players still on that B site, even with that idea to push over at A. So it did seem like it was seemingly a last-minute decision, because you cannot quite often see teams commit a 3rd player in, so that there's either a quick player there to either trade things out if things don't go great, or at least have some information as to where these T's and how far they're going to push up on towards that A site, because you can see they had to pull a rotation away from the B bomb site as a result of losing that initial duel in towards middle. Oh, and Forze, they're going to go for this again. They're going for the boost, and we'll get there in time, but just missing out on the jump spot.
Not today, son. That's so brilliant. Alex is pushing through. He's taking down that tower. They realized. And there's once more the cocky side of Vitality, who are you taking down one after another. Flit, you can be the hero, but it could be doubted that that one is working out. Try your fancy tricks. But Vitality, not so interested in the circus.
And that goes back to what we were saying about the fact that this is a boost that is pretty common on the side of Forze. They pull it out twice within the first 11 rounds of this game. And Vitality, I mean, even with them pushing through towards Monster, the fact that there's minimal amounts of pressure around the map really signals what's going on. NBK, that's not where you want that to go.
Maybe some French frogs for dinner tonight.
Only you can prevent forest fires. MBK is trying to start fires in the bushes of his own, but all the meanwhile, Zaiwu is taking down Jerry towards short. That's all of the B pressure gone for Forza, so they're going to immediately accelerate over towards A.
They do. So over long they go. First one taken out, but Flit has the right reaction to take down Zaiwu. Apex patient on this. Could have remained patient actually, but that is going to be the plant, and this play around the smoke, it does not get rewarded. Force got the bomb down, and pressure is building up for Vitality, who were looking actually like the dominant part in the beginning phase. NBK down. 3 versus 3, and a retake to be initiated anytime soon, as they're waiting over there on CT, and Flit is so ready. Back player down. Almazar is chiming in when needed. And suddenly, it looks like it's collapsing. It does collapse entirely. RPK can take them out one by one, and suddenly he's on his own. He's not pulling through. Exi knows that he needs to come by, and he's dead. He's down, and the tank strikes, but the defuse, it's even working. All on his own, all in the hands of RPK. Single-handedly, he slaps all of those Force faces. Get out of here.
That is dominating from RPK. Just when we begun to doubt them, really, that they might have been able to hold on to that post plant, just peak after peak, RPK winning duel after duel. And he's been having a phenomenal game for the Vitality side so far. 14 kills to his name, only the 4 deaths, and you've seen him shut things out in that B bomb site a couple of times already, but Vitality, they're scared of this fast push here from Forze. FaceCrack's gone into the backline. Only the 1 kill, but Alex maybe letting RPK down a little bit there, just losing track of those players, but they should be able to still trump this push here from Forze. These smokes redeployed in towards those barrels positions. Forze, they need to be able to progress on through, because they're seemingly stagnating every time those smokes are deployed. The bomb is on towards that bridge area, and they can't traverse over them.
Now, you said they should trump that push coming in, but irrational plays, irrational times, and irrational results are coming in from time to time. But Flit should be the last victim for the French site. Would make sense if both Zaiwu and Apex are not trying to take that peak. Alex coming by, Flit down and out. 8-5 it is. Vitality already with the half in the back, and from that point on, imagine they're taking this one away, snatching it from Force, stealing it. It would be nothing else but a brilliant 10-5 opportunity. And with a 10-5 on the CT side, you can be like, that's decent, that's working, let's do this.
Yeah, that's extremely respectable, for sure. I mean, I'd be interested to see what sort of homework Vitality have put into this game, because it seems like they value that 1 smoke over towards the barrels, and I wonder if there's any sort of analysis that's gone into that, because Forza, every time that smoke has been deployed, have lost the round.
Right.
And they've never really pushed out past it. Never been too successful in finding those picks as a result of just that one avenue of attack that's now taken away from them.
And this is where we gotta say, right? Will it actually be that one smoke is going to be taken very soon by all of those matchmaking players? Maybe. I mean, if you can learn something from this game, I think it would be, first of all, how to clutch, brought to you by RPK. Second of all, how to use smokes properly. But FaceCrack, he wants to show us a different tutorial, and that's how to obliterate Frenchmen. Works against 2. And with 60 seconds, Force are somewhat on the right track.
Yeah, another man advantage, and another individual play that's been able to net themselves a double kill in the earlier stages of the round. I mean, this is going to have to be a little bit faster here from Forza, because they want to sit back. You can see they want to look for the reaction here from Vitality, but they just don't have the amount of time to really work that out. 30 seconds remain, and that smoke over towards Monster will at least delay them for now. Apex is the only defender here on this site. And a small fake towards A. Oh, that's going to keep these 2 players here. Apex even moving in towards CT. No, the smoke's over. Yeah, he'll start to signal over that Forze are going to take this B bomb site, but there's very little that Apex can do aside from take them out on the cross, and he's lost his life. Almazer in the back lines as well. NBK will try and clutch things back. He's got 2.
That's not gonna work. Force, they are taking that one, and once more we saw aggression fighting back Vitality. Their own decision, of course, it can pay off. Alex proved us how they can be short and instantly denying the boost can get you around, but not like this and not like it this time. Double deagle on Zywu and Alex. The P250 coming out for RPK. That is one mixed by. This grab back. Maybe it's the cool toy they got from the Happy Meal. And therefore, they can put it to use.
It's going to be bit of a rough round here for Vitality. They need this connector presence to really work out. If they deal with the likes of Flit, recover that rifle, and can suddenly hold on to a bit of map control, that's the real win condition, I feel, for Vitality in this round, is because those 2 players, I mean, an MP9, a Deagle, it's at least Zywu that's going to be on that Deagle. Flit is being patient with it. He's not pushing too far forward. Even if Zywu were to peek down deep, it isn't going to be enough to net them a frag.
And you're talking about the man suddenly is taking out Flit. That is the perfect combination of things. And Force gotta accept that their first player got finished off and served. But the other 4, they definitely have a game plan. First focus is gonna be the A side, whilst FaceCrack is trying to take down any people who flank. He waits towards Monster and already pushing through. It's Almazar. He's approaching it slowly and steady, waiting in the corner any second soon. Players from Bank might be the next objective, or could alternatively be a threat, but Zywu at his best. The second frag he received, then it's the headshot coming in by Almazar, and the defense can't remain strong, because Apex... This is so smart, Michael. This is so brilliant. The patience pays off.
And Apex spotted Almazer up close as well before they even progressed on towards the A site. The bomb dropped, FaceCrack trying to get something from the back lines, and exit power. No time remaining, 4 players on the site. There's no possible world in which he wins that round. A 9th is accumulated here for Vitality as we now set ourselves up for a side swap, but a very respectable return into things there for Vitality's CT side.
Exactly, and I mean, that's the perfect moment where we can take a little bit more a look into the ADR, which I can only read out from HLTV. So it is actually Alex, who didn't seem to have too much impact, having the highest ADR on the side of Vitality, interestingly enough. Which seems, if you think about it, it reminds me of this classical copy-pasta. Like, this Alex guy doesn't really do any frags. I mean, he does 32 frags.
Do you remember a single Alex frag?
I don't.
I remember a Guardian flick. Is that one?
I only remember a Zywu kill, actually. But that's a matter of fact, actually very interesting that Alex is leading that aspect of the statistics. And now Force is switching over to a side where they're winning 60% of their Overpass rounds. The balance CT for them is 60-40. Very typical when it comes down to Overpass. And that might turn the tables around. This could be where Vitality overall fails to remain strong. I'm not so sure at this point in time. I'm not so sure if from start on Vitality are able to be that strong, to say it like that.
Well, I think the silver lining we should be able to see from this T side from Vitality, if they do, I expect them to be at least a little bit more successful, because I at least anticipate they'll have a bit more structure. It felt like Forze were sort of calling things a little bit more on the fly. Of course, they did have these sort of niche rounds where they could go for the boosts. They have a few sort of takes in towards middle and long respectively, but it was mainly default heavy from them. And they were really waiting for them to get initial duels and win out respective picks across the map so that they could attain more map control on an individual level. And I think Vitality are going to be at least assume a little bit more structured in their approach, maybe have a few more set strategies for the likes of taking short control or taking monster control while minimizing risk, which I feel like Forze took a number of risks throughout the half, but still getting a somewhat respectable scoreline on their side.
You could call some plays reckless. I think reckless is a very good word for some of the executions and set pieces we've seen from Forze, with players pushing out left, right, and center, with looking very aggressive and dangerous, whilst at the same time working out. And Vitality just around away from overall success. Toilet control they take. Oh, face crack though, chimes in, gets the first. Second one might be on the board as well, but he knows where the bomb is right now, and he can direct his teammates to come over and take control, but he wants more. Second one down, RPK could be the next victim, but he knows how to strike, and suddenly the Vitality system, it might just start to collapse. It does.
These two players on the A-bomb side are extremely low, though, Jerry and Flit respectively, but the behind's just not covered. Alex is now in the clutch situation, 1 versus 3, and he has to deal with these players on the flank. He cannot approach the bomb site without first eliminating Exit Power and Almazer, but what a great showing there from Facecrack and all those players on that B rotation. I mean, Facecrack bought so much time for Forze to make the right call, and just hitting shot after the fact.
It must have been remarkable communication coming in after they have called where the bomb is. That's one pivotal aspect to me. And it's also what's nice to see here is the read from Forze, because they could have invested a little bit better. For example, in Almazar, who might just save up for the AWP of Exi Power, which could also be actually face crack doing that if I take a look at it that way. The main point for me is, though, they didn't invest into anything better, right? Because they know the opponent didn't get the bomb plant, so they probably won't force through. As I say, it starts to get a little bit worrisome, doesn't it?
Does a bit, but they are able to at least clean up. Only the two players that were on the B-bomb side, they had the read and they had the counter utility available. You could see how much damage that grenade did when they did push out, but overwhelmed by the sheer number of Glocks available for the Vitality side. And although they lose 2 weapons, it is just SMGs, not the worst thing in the world if you're that CT side. They can now full buy into this, but their economy is going to be kept at least somewhat modest. It's going to be the full AKs in response here for Vitality. No AWP on the field. And Forze already going for an early stack over towards the B-bomb side. I mean, Almazer's here by himself, and he's being pushed back by all the utility coming out here from Vitality.
Taking control very early on seems to be one of the key points Vitality is focusing on. They could advance to the end of toilets by now, besides that, without meeting any opposition. This is of course allowing them to perform an A-side split, as NVK is in control of the toilets. Good night, Exi Power. Second one on Almazar is not going to be granted, but he deals big time damage, and this seems to be the call to now instantly move over to the A side. It's going to become problematic for Flit and his teammates, as suddenly the Frenchmen are storming on the site, and the rain of nades, it's coming down. The forecast is looking sinister, but Alex, he advanced, and he's a key player now.
These flashes, the timings of them are so perfect as well. Forze are able to use those smokes to their advantage. Almazer finds a third. He's shut out the entire offensive here from Vitality. MBK very hesitant to take that fight because he's such low HP, waiting for Apex to navigate over, but 25 seconds left. They need to find this kill quickly. They've actually doubled up in towards truck. Almazer's on for the ace. He's gonna find it as well.
Ridiculous.
He shuts every single player down on the rotation there. The single sight hit and the counter utility deployed by Forze is perfect.
I mean, that's just simply the way to do it. NBK start with taking down Power, and so it seemed like the gates to the A side have opened entirely. But the castle can't be conquered when Knight Almazar is waiting there with 24 frags over the course of 19 rounds. And he's got to continue to perform like that. Interested in a few more frags. Gets the one onto NBK. And he got to hold the control as he at least takes down another. But it becomes problematic when you try to take those close-range duels with the pistols. But somebody has to prevail. It's going to be the Russian side. And I have my doubts. Michael, this is gonna... I shouldn't have said it. I shouldn't have said it.
And that could be the start of something much worse, but Alex, I don't think he suspects this player to be up so close. His flit just hovering over the other side of the edge. Small little ledge gives him a bit of cover, and he can hold down connector as a result of that. But I think the problem becomes for him that he's in a fairly one-and-done angle. If he's not able to find the angle that Alex is approaching from, then he's leaving himself extremely exposed. Of course, Alex is the majority of the map to navigate. These players on the side of Forze are giving him opportunities in which he's able to get 1-versus-1 engagements, but so many angles to clear out with an AWP, no less.
Need some decent game sense, that one, to now properly realize it. Alex with the AWP still somewhat stands a chance. It would be one hell of a heroic play, as his bomb is about to be the one that needs to be brought to the ground. 19 more seconds.
He's not going to get there.
I'm trying to get into the head of him. I'm trying to just get in ahead of him, but this seems so irrational.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't maybe it could be me not understanding that, but he had like this was like a telltale game, and you have two options. You either say you go for the safe, which would be reasonable and 100% understandable, and also the alternative would be you are trying to get the bomb down. So I understand that he didn't go for the safe in regards of the losing bonus of vitality and the money they are amassed by now, but on the other side, I'm not quite sure if that was the right thing to do. But overall, his decision, he knows what he's doing. But some man who's already down doesn't seem to be what he's doing. Power dominating Zaiwu. Overall, Force, they're right now in the driver's seat, and they let nobody pass.
This time they meet the aggression of Vitality in the early stages head on. I mean, just taking fight after fight, not moving an inch, and Vitality lose their respective duels. The utility was certainly there to make things a little bit easier, but even when the Forza were caught out in the open, they were winning their fight. As the bomb dropped at their disposal as well, they could hold this if they wanted to, but I think, yeah, now the spam and the utility being thrown on the side of Vitality will force them back a little bit. Apex is able to win that respective duel, allow them a bit more breathing room here to navigate the map, but what is ever approaching here is face crack on the flank.
Yeah, but he's the problem, and he's very happy to survive that. He's so goddamn happy to survive that, because if he would have died, this would have all gotten a little bit problematic, and it would have opened a big door for Vitality. Next duel should just though happen back over on the toilets. NBK does not realize Almazer is just waiting around the corner, and the man is ready for Apex. Good night for you. Another player just behind him. Could be the quad kill he's getting. The bomb brought to the ground. Gonna be picked up by NBK, who now needs to make the decision and actually has a very possible situation up ahead of him, because both FaceCrack and Exi on an HP-wise basis are not looking too strong, and Exi's patience, oh, it needs to pay off. It's 9 more seconds. That was not the best move, and he swings wide, he swings out, and this is where now it could be all going right. NBK knows where his opponent is coming from, and he's only on 19 HP. He needs to hit every single shot from that point on, and the Frenchman, he can't allow him any mistakes. He peeks wide, and his triplet secures Vitality. The first sign of life in the second half. Force all going one by one, and we could criticize Almazer. We could. For the play that happened back at Bank, the peak, I think it was Power, pardon me, but one by one, and that cost it a round.
Yeah, I mean, had to identify that he's such low HP. I mean, going for a situation where you have that numbers advantage is surely the more measured of the two approaches, but we've been seeing it the entire game that these players do like to take a few risks on the side of Forze.
From time to time.
So I suppose in the end it's not completely out of the playbook, or at least not outside of what we would have expected. But Forza, now as a result of losing that round, are on an eco. It's going to be a couple of upgraded pistols on the side of Flit and Almazer, but they're stacking this B bomb site to try and get something done. They eventually overwhelm Apex over towards B, but MBK should be able to be in a position to shut them down, make sure that these weapons aren't a problem later in the round, and yeah, they swing out wide, and ultimately a non-issue. One AK will be, or one rifle will be at least thrown away. Make things a little bit more interesting, make it so that Almazer can't retrieve that later on. He still has the Deagle, and he knows where these Vitality players are going to be approaching from. He should be able to hear them now. Given a couple of opportunities, but to no avail.
There it goes. Vitality back in the lead, back in the driver's seat, and surprising how Force actually struggled with that one. I mean, just to mention the previous round again, and I think it's very much worth talking about that. It was a 1 versus 3 situation where Almazar was waiting in front of the toilets, took down the Rotator Apex with a bomb. It's a legit one. That was all fine. At that point, we were looking at a 1 versus 3, and Almazar dying was also fine because he couldn't necessarily have the read on this. And that is the point in time where we could discuss how good the peak for out of bank was. Because once you're at the beep, that could be where the time was already low. You could build pressure on your opponent by making those stepping sounds. And at that point, he's realizing, okay, I can't pull through. I gotta kill this guy who's coming at me. And that was not what happened, obviously. It was a very risky peak in an angle where you can be pre-fired all the time. The only thing I imagine is that Power didn't know he was spotted. That's the only logical explanation to me.
We'll have to break down that round at a future date, I'm sure. Forza, just with upgraded pistol in this round, have actually won their opening duel. Jerry eliminating Apex. A bit of counter utility if they had a smoke available that'll make things easier, but they're able to navigate and actually pick up the AK. It's in the hands of Almazer, and it's the one player that you'd like that to be on, but he cannot escape. Zaya was trained on the angle and eliminate him from the round. He threw the AK over just before his death, though. That's a crucial bit. His self-sacrifice will not be in vain. Forza should be able to make that AK somewhat useful now.
The point is that's a should. And shoulds are not very reliable words. Especially not when it's coming down to that, though. Flits? No. Oh, timing. No chance. Running out of bullets.
That is unfortunate.
It is unluco.
That could have been a way back into the round, right?
Right.
Dealing with Zaibu who had the bomb on his back and suddenly has an AWP to work with, but MBK, too smart. Make sure that that isn't a possibility. Thing is, Crack is looking for a little bit more damage here. He's going to try and keep the economy low on the side of Vitality. Of course, no kit available makes things incredibly awkward.
Yeah, but you know, we in Germany say, life's no pony farm. Which translates to life's not easy. Why it's that way, I can tell you. I'm not joking. I'm legit serious. Well, there's the pony farm, and it's a French pony farm with quite decent weaponry. Gonna work for RPK. There's a 2-round lead. After we saw Force starting so phenomenally and sensational over here on the CT side, it looked like it was all in their hands, but things are, well, not necessarily starting to collapse, but it's going in the wrong direction. And I think, Michael, this round is where we might just have it all decided.
Yeah. Force are going to get a little bit aggressive here in this round. Jerry already pushing up towards the fountain. Vitality aren't pushing much further. They're being pretty elaborate about how they take middle control, but Exit Power is there trained on with the AWP. He was hovering above that smoke, and He's at least able to trade things back. Flit winning a duel over towards the B bomb site. Apex trying to lurk himself out, but Vitality, this is a pretty easy read from here on out, it seems. Forze immediately getting that kill over towards B and not finding any sort of resistance, but Almazer swinging out from the connector gives Vitality an opportunity. Exit power? Oh.
Not like this. Not today. The man who just came out of shadows, his silhouette showing first. Falling down with a dream in his hands, and it could be Flit who overextends a little bit. Saibu just trained to hold that angle down, and all of a sudden, face crack. Put on that cape. Start flying over to the A site. But very realistically, Michael,
this is
a
save, 100%. I'm so confused, I feel like, from Exit Power's play there, because it's a 3 versus 3. You've just lost your teammate in towards connector. I mean, arguably the fault probably lies with him because he's the main rotation point. And if he just stays alive and is maybe even able to make his way towards A, maybe even just feign a bit of presence there, fire off your gun, maybe even deploy a smoke or something, you at least make things a little bit more awkward for Vitality if they want to go back towards the B bomb site, but instead he pushes forward and then Exit Power pushes through a smoke with an AWP. I think pushing through a smoke is inadvisable in its own right, but with an ult no less, it's even more so.
Yeah,
and just left face crack in a terrible position. He's never going to be able to really contest the round.
And the problem I start to have with Forze at that point, it's for me personally, like, it does not necessarily feel like Vitality's improving too much, don't get me wrong, but what I'm trying to say is that nervosity seems to be somewhat an aspect in Force, that those minimal and tiny mistakes, it's not even big, we're not talking about fatal massive flaws, but they end up in a fatal consequence. And this is what Force might just cost them the win over here in Overpass. Vitality came out of the best of one against Virtus Pro with a loss, but it might be the revenge coming down to Force.
Oh, perfect timing in towards connector. They get the initial duel on NBK. Bit more presence actually spotted over towards that connector position, so Vitality will be a little bit hesitant to progress forward because they don't want to get pincered in.
As Vitality are now getting that bomb down. Exit Power and Co, they're building up the pressure and are making it somewhat uncomfortable for that French side, as Flit is trying to play it around smart, trying to stay arcane in the smoke, but it's only down to Exi, and his brain splattered on the wall behind him. Force can't remain strong, though 30 frags are onto Almazar, which is outstanding and amazing. The guy's on 122 ADR over the course of 25 rounds. This is just unbelievable. This is some electronic simple stuff.
Yet, here we are. Four rounds behind. I mean, even with the individual performances coming out from Almazer, it's just not seeming like it's been enough.
Not so amazing. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, Michael.
Vitality, they'll take connector control. Apex will make his way up through short, and Jerry will win his respective duel. The bomb's still positioned away from the rest of these players, but Exit Power getting that one kill. Oh, Almazer's there to cover his retreat. Another kill, double kill for the man himself. 32 now to his name. Zaiwu in the 1 versus 5 and AWP in his hands, and we'll see what he's able to do with it. If there's one player you can't really count out on the side of Vitality, it's going to always be Zaiwu. He's not had the strongest game so far, but a slow start. He spots out the head. Yeah, ridiculous. Exit Power eliminated. That's the first of what could be many more.
There's a man who wears a cape on the server. Gotta be Zaiwu. Body shot coming down to Almazer. That's the second, and he's starting to build up the pressure for Force. Top is the magic stick you want to see. The third frag found, and he's hungry for more. He seems to have somewhat of a realization what's about to happen as Jerry comes in and sneaks very slowly to get closer and closer to the A site. Both seem to be frozen in. staying there and waiting patiently, as now it is only a move from ZywOo to turn things around. The smoke has landed towards CT. FaceCrack is going to approach back over toilets. ZywOo has the read, he has the understanding, and he has the interest to find another! There comes the fourth, and ZywOo is hungry for more. And as this man cannot stop getting them down one by one by one, it's the final frag he needs to get, and it's Jerry taken out as well. ZywOo, you're a beast, you're a maniac, and you're the personal Grim Reaper of Vitality who's humiliating them all.
You could just see it happening.
Why did you say it?
Could...
You even predicted it.
You can never count him out of a round, especially when Forze was just giving him one-by-one opportunities. You can see how clued into every rotation he was. I mean, just in that 1 versus 2, to have the presence of mind to realize that player in towards CT, he's trying to make as much noise as possible, be a distraction, and ZywOo is unfazed. That is ZywOo,
dude. Listen, right? What I realized throughout the course of my life as a caster, you don't overhype things. But when ZywOo was doing this, right? Jesus Christ!
It just seems so easy for him.
It's just right. At this point where he got the 4th frag towards toilets, you thought, how can he have such a read? How does he understand it so well? It's incredible. The Force is ridiculous. They won 4 rounds in a row and looked like, okay, this might be them actually getting in the driver's seat, but suddenly they get kicked out, and Vitality, could it be the final attack, Michael, we're seeing?
They're gonna try and contact off up
Saw the shadow.
The AWP there from ZywOo. Oh, FaceCrack is deployed the smoke. They're actually just gonna swing all wide. FaceCrack's gonna go in for another. The trade is there at least. It's a back and forth exchange on both sides. Almazer can't do much. Flit has at least found the trade in response. It's been back and forth all the way through, but Apex in the one-on-one. Flit cannot get it done. And it doesn't get much closer than that.
It doesn't. It
trades galore, and then 1 HP on the remaining player.
And I think this told us the story of the game, right? That final one where he survived with 1 HP. This told us the story. Things started to turn around at one point. The last time, you need to know, when Michael and I casted MDL, it was a 4 versus 5, X-Fraxers versus Sprout. But this was a gourmet match. This was a delicate match with the finesse of individuals and teams. It couldn't get any better, couldn't it?
Yeah, what a performance. I mean, it wasn't even the sharpest game from the likes of ZywOo the entire way through. I mean, the side of Vitality were pretty closely knit in terms of how much fragging potential they had, and then you had the likes of Forze where it was very lopsided. Almazer really pulling ahead of the rest of the pack, and you had these players kind of lingering around that 10 to 12 frag mark that just wasn't really pulling that same level of weight and that same sort of fear that Vitality had to be concerned about on those rotating players and the initial defenses. So I mean, it was just such a closely fought battle all the way through because of that sort of lopsided nature of it.
100%, but that's how it sometimes is, right? We finished off with nothing else than a beautiful, beautiful ace from the man himself, and on my side was a beautiful man as well. That was Yuumi on my side. Oh. At this point, I think it's time to say goodbye. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you like what you've been seeing, you can type !caster in the chat. Otherwise, I think the MDL career is coming our way. We're going to see a lot more of those games. And final words from your side, they belong to you.
No, it's been a pleasure. I always enjoy our casts together, and I'm looking forward to doing more MDL with yourself, or maybe we'll do a couple here and there by our lonesomes. But hopefully that we can keep things consistent, do more and more of these casts, and look forward to more of these outstanding plays from the MDL League.
Right, and so it's time to say goodbye. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a safe day, and bye-bye.